Good. So, yeah, hello everyone. How's it going? Good. I've met some of you already. Nice to meet you. Well, so welcome to my very short talk for tonight. It's about differential mathematics. No, just kidding. It's actually about loudness standards for game audio. Actually, no, let's get it. It is real. This one is the real one, I promise. Yeah, so yeah, we're going to talk about audio. So before that, you might be wondering, okay, so who are you? Yeah, you just walk up here and start talking, so I'm just going to briefly talk about this. Yeah, so my name is Matheus, or Matt, either is fine. Here's what I currently do. I'm working at Polyarc right now, and also teaching at Vancouver from school. I have some students here. Hello. Hey! Oh, there's more of you! Hello. Hi. Welcome. I also make lo-fi music, when time allows. Yeah. Leave it in there?
I didn't know that.
Okay. Let's go. Okay, stuff I worked on Baldur's Gate 3 until dawn, and I'm making some new stuff. It's coming out. It's probably going to take a while, I don't know. Who knows? Great, okay, let's move on. So, why is this topic important? Why should we talk about loudness in video games, right? User experience. Is it good if it's too loud? Is it good if it's too quiet? Example. You're listening to some music, and you're like, okay, probably time for some Overwatch. And you open up the game, and you realize that the game is too quiet. So suddenly you have to become an audio mixer, because now you're meddling with audio sliders and stuff. And that's bad. You don't want your player to do that. You want your player to even swap games without having to touch the sliders, preferably. You know? Unless they want to do something like, oh, yeah, I don't care about the music. I'm sorry, Josh. Let's see a music composer here. You know, in that case, sure. Yeah, because that's part of the user experience control. But if it's too loud, too quiet, that's bad. That's not okay. So when we're dealing with loudness, you want to make sure you're eliminating fatigue, pain, because if it's too loud, yes, it is painful, and confusion. If you have a lot of sounds playing at the same time in your games, it's hard to understand what's going on. Sometimes you can't hear the dialogue. What if it's a story-driven game? And you have a bunch of very important stuff going on, and you're just trying to figure out what's going on, and you can't because you can't hear the sounds. Right? That's a problem. At the same time, you also want to enhance feedback, HUD sounds, or if you do a cool attacking or fighting game, you want a thick, punchy sound to cut through without being too loud or too quiet, right? And legibility as well. If someone's saying something, or if there's a very important kind of small sound going on, you have to be able to hear that properly, right? Cool. So how do we know that it's good? I got my game, maybe I got some sound designers, got a bunch of assets, programmer or technical audio designer, put the sounds into the game. Good. How do I know that it's good? Just like with a bunch of other things in game dev, you have units of measurement, right? You can measure things. For example, you can get poly count for 3D art. You can get amount of particles for the particle system. You can get the amount of work that your GPU or CPU is doing for a certain amount of time. You can get all of those measurements, right? Same thing for audio. When it comes to loudness, it's the same. You have units of measurement. But before I talk about that, let's define loudness, right? So I wrote a very simplified kind of definition here. It's the intensity or volume of sound as experienced by the listener. That's very important. You know, because it is from our perspective. In fact, if you think about it, sound is a human thing. Sound doesn't exist. Sound pressure level exists. That's the air vibrating. That's the information that we get, and we, as humans, we interpret that as sound. Right? So it's important to keep in mind that this is all about user experience, the human experience. Right? That being said, so what are we measuring then? First thing, maximum true peak. In other words, that's the loudest moment or the loudest sample, the loudest frame in your game. What was that number? What was the loudest it got? Second, average loudness. Because you know, if your game is just overall too quiet, that's a problem. If it's overall too loud, that's also a problem. Third, loudness range. This is a very problematic one, and it's kind of hard to address this one. I'll give you an example. Let's say we're playing a supernatural shooter game, right? And I'm just walking around, and I say, this way, the entity must be here. What? This way! I'm gonna go deaf. Imagine you as the player's like, what? Crank up the volume, can't hear. Ah! You want that to happen? Probably not, right? Cool. Great, so nice. Now I know what to measure, like numbers. Okay, what's good? There you go. If you plan on releasing a game anytime soon, that's good. So yeah, for true peak, -1 dB TP, that being true peak. -1, what the hell? It's because in digital audio, someone said 0 is the maximum, and that's how it works. I don't know. Someone said so, and that's what we do. That's how it works. Anyway, average loudness -24, LUFS I, that stands for loudness unit full scale integrated. Very long topic, I'll not explain that today, there's not enough time, but there you go, that's the number. Loudness range, 12 LU, that's loudness units. Oh, this one is positive, it's not negative. That's because that's the gap between the quietest moments and the loudest moments, and naturally, that's an absolute number. Great, and just to let you know, these guidelines are not just from inside my head. They are used widely in the industry by a bunch of leaders in the industry, actually. And if you want to know more about this standard, there is actually a name for it. It's the ITU-RBS 1770. There's actually a whole document that explains how the measurements are done, in case you like that sort of stuff. But yeah, cool. So yeah, okay, good. But how do I get the measurements? Well, are you using middleware? Yes. Good. Lucky you. It's gonna be easy. Because tools like Wise and Fmod, they have stuff that basically just gives the numbers for you, and it's very easy to know. No middleware? Good luck. Actually, that's a bit of an exaggeration. It's not that bad. It's just that you're gonna have to do some extra work. You know, you might have to write some code, you might have to buy a third-party tool. It depends. The engines are getting better in terms of audio. In my opinion, especially the Real Engine, with the Real Engine 5, there's a bunch of new cool stuff in there. So we'll see, but for now, absolutely, if you have middleware, if you check documentation on how to get those numbers, it is quite easy, actually. So yeah, at this point you're like, okay, so I need an audio specialist for my game. Right? Because how am I going to do all of this? Maybe I have a ton of all the work to do, right? Yeah, right. I'm sorry, that's the right answer. Yeah, the best thing you can do if you want to make sure your game is mastered correctly, if you want to make sure the loudness is good, the best you can do is, well, either learn how to get the measurements from middleware, or get a sound designer. Cool? Great, that's all. Okay, I guess we got time for questions-ish. No? Yes? Yes? Where's the author? Oh, there. You stole the microphone. There you go. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, I guess I forgot to mention my role. I'm a senior technical audio designer. That's why I know these things. Just in case. I forgot.
You had mentioned, thank you for the quick talk. You had mentioned not having players play with sliders. And you also mentioned about the fidelity range, maximum range of the sounds. But do you have any words to speak on, like, number one, everyone has different setups, so some games offer like headphones or TV speakers, like all these different potential options which will help the sound range. Number one, is that something you should look at, giving the user the way to set up their home, for their home studio.
If you have the, sorry, there you go.
And then number two, since you said like not have them play with sliders, is it not better to have more sliders so they could adjust, voice versus shooting sounds as opposed to just sounds and music?
Let's get there. So first part, you said, what about different endpoints? Right? Headphones, speakers, soundbar. If you have the budget and the time, yes, you're going to account for that. And usually that comes in the shape of options in the options menu, right? Usually a drop down kind of thing, you say, okay, you're using headphones or you're using sound or something else. What that does is doing some audio processing in the background to make it a more enjoyable experience, but the loudness is still the same. What some other games do sometimes, they have a thing called a midnight mode or a low dynamic range mode, which I did implement for Baldur's Gate because a lot of people like it. What it does is it keeps the same average loudness, but it crunches the dynamic range a little bit. So what do I call it here? This section here. I'll show you. Yeah, the loudness range. Some games offer a way to make it so that the sounds are a little bit closer in terms of loudness, which does not impact this at all. It's just that gap becomes a little smaller. Does that answer the first question? Cool. The second question, sorry, can you remind me?
The different sliders for different types.
Sliders are great. It's just that the way you ship the game should be good. Preferably, you're hoping that if the player opens the game and they go straight into play, it's going to be an enjoyable experience.
So it shouldn't be at 100% automatically.
It should be at 100%. Always. Very good question.
What if that's too quiet for them?
Then you have a problem with loudness. So all of your sounds are quiet. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Because sliders usually they don't go past 100%.
No, they shouldn't. In fact,
So
because let me tell you something.
Why not set it to 50%?
No, 100. It has to be 100. Because here's the thing. Remember what I mentioned about digital audio. It caps at 0. What happens if it goes above 0? Distortion. Can you predict everything that the player is going to do? You don't know what sounds they're going to play. You don't know what combination. You don't know how loud they're going to get. Right? Therefore, 100%, you mix and master your game at 100%. You give the players the option to make it quieter, never louder. Yeah. Cool? Anyone else? Yeah, someone here. How are you? Oh, sorry. Okay, we got someone in the next one. Okay.
Do you have any advice for around playtesting and sound during playtesting? Because I imagine it's quite difficult.
Oh, absolutely. Great question. So these measurements, you have to play for ideally 30 to 60 minutes to get a good measurement because they're measured over time, especially this one. Right? Not really this one. But let's say your game length is not that much. Maybe just like one match takes 15 minutes. Then you got to play for the entire thing. Play for 15 minutes. Then you're going to get good readings. Yeah. Does that answer? Or yeah. Yeah, it's very important. Don't especially for the people working with audio here. Don't open this, play for 3 minutes, and call it a day. Close. Good. No, you got to play for like a longer period of time.
So you mentioned levels of loudness. Compared to music, I think music is mastered around -14 LUFs on average. Would that mean that it's common practice for video games to be a little bit quieter than music overall, like the loudness of it?
Absolutely. So with music, there's kind of a standard. Spotify, I believe, at the moment is -14. Apple Music is -16. Some other stuff is -12. But the actual mastering is not done at those values. You can actually do it whatever value you want. And when you upload to, let's say, Spotify, they'll adjust it for you, essentially. You know? But yeah, games definitely usually play. Anyone else? Cool, thank you. If you want to connect and get some lo-fi beats, there you go.